Okay, so today we've got together to discuss some frequently asked questions which we get asked by our clients during the purchase or sale process. This could go on and on and on, so we're probably best to stay focused on each individual question. But just to start off, when we're dealing with clients early on, one of the things they ask us, even before they've made any decision about a house, is if we can help them with an NIE number. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, of course, Julian. We have an in-house legal advisor who can facilitate obtaining an NIE number for our clients. Obviously, that's a really important piece of the jigsaw in terms of buying a property, and then moving forward in Spain, the NIE is such an important number to have. But yes, we can facilitate that as an agency.
Many people arrive here not knowing just how important is that number in being able to do anything of any importance, buy a car or even to get a mobile phone.
Yeah, any form of contract like that, the NIE is super important. It's your fiscal identification number as a foreigner, and I'm sure Dixie will agree that's a vital component.
It is, and the important thing is we can do it in-house.
Absolutely. Yep. There's no need at all for them to be looking elsewhere or finding lawyers to do it. And bank account. That's an interesting one because, of course, a bank's difficult to keep in-house, isn't it? What's the situation there?
That's true, yeah. Well, for the clients, what we have been providing the service, I have contacts directly with some of the local banks, and I am able to provide them the direct contact, so they can open the bank account from abroad. They will be required to send information directly, and then the process is already started. It is important to have a bank account in place prior to completion because they will need this for the direct debit of all the bills that are going to be paid.
Yeah,
so this is something, again, that due to the relationships that I've built over the years, I can help with the service, and it's straightforward.
Okay, great. And I think staying on the subject of money, also very important to plan ahead with is the currency exchange. If they live in the UK, for example, or in the United States, how are they going to turn those pounds or dollars into euros? Now, this is an area where a lot of people fall into the trap, and it costs them maybe a good chunk of money more than what they're expecting. What's the best way to deal with that?
Yeah, you're right, Julie. I mean, exchange rate fluctuations are going to affect the cost of buying a property. So it's super important if you're in the US or if you're in, for example, the UK using pounds. So over the years, we've worked with different currency companies. Yeah. We can point you in the right direction to tried and tested currency exchange companies who will look after you, who have great customer services and will advise even on perhaps a forward purchase of currency. Yes.
Definitely, that's a good point, and that also that they are regulated. I think that's the most important thing to say. And over the years, again, they have helped many of our clients, but it's also for the bank rates when the funds are received in Spain. This is where we try to highlight to our clients that it's not just the rates that their bank gives them, it's the fact that when the funds are received by the lawyer or by us as an agency for the deposit, if they come directly from America, Britain, the bank places charges, and they can be quite high depending on the volume. So it is important to contact a currency company that can provide them that service. Using them will save them those charges.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's right, because, sorry to interrupt, but post-Brexit, that's a really good point. UK clients didn't realise that if they sent money to a Spanish bank account, they would incur charges that would then perhaps be passed back to them by the lawyer that received the funds or a third party. So that's really a really important piece of advice there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now I'm going to make a bit of a jump now. So from getting those subjects sorted out quite early on, then the clients find their perfect property, they make the reservation through us, that's our job, we'd all be expected to do that. Then we'll get to a stage of, for example, an inventory for furniture would be fairly soon after reservation to get sorted before they move to the next stage. Who deals with that?
Okay, that's a good question. The inventory should be provided by the agent that is selling the property.
Right.
Okay, for me, that's the first step. And then, as an agent that sells the property, we help our client check the inventory when the property is going to be completed. I would say there's two different stages to the inventory, but we've had a lot of experience over the years. The inventory is a really important part of the purchase because there are small details that upset people. So as an agency, we insist on a property checkup. So you've done that, Tim, quite a few times, and you as well, Julian, where when the property is going to be completed, we request to do a visit to the property to ensure that everything that has been agreed is there. But there's more to it. Tim, you're going to be visiting a property.
Yeah, that's right, Dixie. I mean, the inventory is, it's quite simple, but at the same time, it's something which I've had through experience people can fall out about. People can fall out about a master bed. They can fall out about a television. And so I think when dealing with the inventory, and Dixie is correct that the listing agent, the selling agent should produce the inventory. But the inventory forms a huge part of the negotiations when we are working on behalf of our clients and negotiating to buy the property. Yes, it's the price. Yes, it's the different timescales of when the property will be exchanging contracts and being purchased. But furniture is also a key part of that. Why? Because here in Spain, people are selling properties fully furnished. In the UK, you might take vacant possession of a property, for example. You might have your own furniture, you'd be upgrading, upsizing your property. But here, because there's a lot of holiday homes for sale, actually the vendors are more often than not really happy to include their furniture or partly furnished, minus sometimes it's termed personal items, sentimental items. And so the inventory has to be agreed by both parties, signed and attached to the private contract. And as Dixie was saying, yes, on Friday I'm going to check on a villa. I will take the inventory with me, and on behalf of our clients, I will look around the property, make sure that everything is as agreed, that the items are in situ, and then I can confidently tell my clients that we shouldn't have any issues or problems post completion.
I think the important part that you've just mentioned there, Tim, is that a lot of the clients are not able to be here for completion. So they rely on us to do that checkup for them. But we also like to involve them on this inspection. So obviously we do a video call and we do a video recording of the property and we send them all to them so that they're also involved in this part.
And also a video is great evidence of how a property has been handed over.
Exactly.
You know, is it clean? Have all the furniture items been left in the property? And so nothing can be left to chance.
The inventory responsibility is for the agents. It's not the lawyers. In my opinion, they don't know the house. They don't know what's been there. So it is down to us to work to ensure that what has been agreed, it's going to be left. You know, so I insist that when we do sales and there's lawyers involved, this is a team effort. And this is the part of the, the responsibility that as agents we provide to ensure that it goes smoothly.
I think a lot of these issues over the years for different agencies have maybe cropped up because there's different understandings depending on where the buyers and the sellers are from, isn't there, as to what is furniture included. And for some people, the TVs and what have you would never be part of that, in their thinking. But for others, of course, it's everything.
Yeah, personalized.
just like they saw it, That's right. So absolutely. There's great importance in getting that ironed out very early on. The property handover clean, or does it need to be handed over clean? What's your understandings there?
What's been the experience, Tim?
I think it really depends what's been agreed and the reason why your client is buying the property. For example, the property on Friday, my client's actually going to do a huge renovation. So cleanliness is not high up on the agenda because they will move in with the sledgehammers and the machinery the following week. But if you're buying a holiday home and you're buying the furniture, then the right thing to do, in my opinion, is for a vendor to have a final, thorough, deep clean and hand over the property in pristine condition. But I think that's part of our job. If we don't put that point across to our collaborating agents and they don't mention it to their vendors, perhaps, as you say, because we are dealing with so many different cultures and nationalities here, everyone has different expectations, that might not be presumed or be taken as for granted. So again, it's our job to make sure that we dig into the detail and ensure that goes across
Correct. I think that is the responsibility, again, of the listing agent. So if we're selling the property, we need to instruct our clients, our vendors, that the property needs to be handed over clean. And that's how we've done it in our agency. So I would expect that if it's a property that is going to be used, and sometimes clients come directly to want to stay in the property after completion, that it should be clean.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
again, we can provide help to get cleaners or whatever. So there's no reason for it not to be clean.
Right then. So, lock changes.
I think that's advisable when people are going to complete on the property. I think that, whether the house has been rented before or not, it's not really the question. To me, if it's your new house, you don't know if the previous owners have had cleaners. So it makes sense to advise the new clients to do a change of locks. Again, we can provide locksmiths in the area to help with that on the same day if they require. This is something that we like to discuss with the clients and with our buyers. We like to bring this up before completion. Usually a week or so before, we like to introduce the services that we provide to our clients. And one of the services we mention is the change of locks, because I do think it's important. Yeah, it may have an alarm, it may not have an alarm, but I think that the lock change is definitely, for me, a priority.
Yep. No, certainly, because you don't know really what the history has been, who's had keys.
No. Tradesmen, who's come through the property at any given time. So yeah, changing the locks is really important.
Totally agree. We've got two different scenarios here, haven't we? We've got a situation of a new property and a resale. How do I connect utilities?
Well, for me, I believe that the lawyer that's acting on your behalf, you always need to double check that it's included in their fees and in their package.
Yes.
But I'm a firm believer that the responsibility lies with your legal representative, your lawyer, to change over the contracts so that they're they're in your names moving forward.
Yeah, that's correct. And check it out, because not all lawyers include that service in their fees. So you do need to ask that question. And it's not just the utilities, it's for the property taxes. So ask if they're not included, and you decide you want to do them on your own, but then you find that it's not as easy as it may look like, just a contract, because you have to contact the utilities. They speak Spanish, or the system could take days because it's busy. There's a lot of properties being handed over at the moment. So you'd be surprised that for getting the electric for a new property could take 2 weeks or more. So these are services we can also provide, but I do agree that it should be part of the legal services provided. But people forget. People forget because perhaps they bought 2 years ago and it's now completion, and they ask, oh, well, who does this? And, we'll remind them of who does it. We're always there for support if they need the service.
Yep. Okay. And sticking with utilities, what about the payments? How are they set up for these companies? Is that all done at the same time?
That's all part of the service,
right?
Because the utilities, what we like to do, or what the lawyers like to do, is put them by direct debit. So this comes back to the first question of the preparation of part of buying a property is obviously having a bank account. You will need to have the bank account so that all these utilities are direct debited, as well as your property taxes, because also I think some town halls offer a small discount if they're direct debited, and it makes your life a lot easier than having to go to the town hall and actually make a payment. That is just unheard of these days. So it is important to have the bank account so that the lawyer can set up it.
So sticking to the subject of making payments, property taxes. Now, we've got different areas here, haven't we? We've got the costs associated to the purchase itself.
Yeah.
And then we've got the ongoing costs as part of the ownership of the property.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really good point, Julian. In terms of the taxes and costs associated with purchasing the company, you will have your property tax, your ITP as it's called in Spain, at 7%, or you may, if you've purchased a new build, you may have a VAT charge of 10%. They are arranged by the lawyer and they are paid 30 days after completion.
Okay.
In the case of transfer tax at 7%. Same with the Basura, the rubbish collection. The other tax, which is really, really important and which is often forgotten, and it shouldn't be, is that as a non-resident in Spain, you have an obligation to file an annual tax return, a declaración de renta. This is filed annually. We can put you in touch with the right accountant that can remind you and deal with this for you. Even if you're not renting the property, you still need to file that tax return.
Declare the asset.
You need to declare it. And if you are renting the property as well as using it for personal reasons as a holiday home, then equally you need to declare the rental income on a more regular basis.
So on recap, property taxes are EB Basura, which is your council tax and your rubbish, and then your non-residence tax return, which is filed at the end of the year. Those are related to property taxes. And then the other taxes are transfer tax or IVA, EBLT, depending on the type of property you buy, whether it's a resale or off-plan, or a new property.
And I think it's important to note that especially for UK buyers, the tax year is different here in Spain, January to December instead of April to April.
That's true. Yeah.
So not to get caught out on that point.
So we can relax a little bit now and get off the subject of taxes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Julian.
And we'll move on to community fees. If we're in an urbanisation, we'll of course know what the current community fee is, but how is all that set up?
The lawyers also do that. They communicate to the administration that runs that community and give them the details so they get paid as well, either monthly or quarterly, however they decide. But not necessarily it's just for apartments. There are villas that are within a private community, and they also have small community fees. So this is something that your lawyer will have spoken to you, or us as the agency will let you know that although it's an independent house, it is part of a community.
Yes.
All these details will be provided, but again, the important part of this is to let you know what happens, who does these services, or who is responsible to ensuring that all these payments are set up so that your property, you're covering all your costs.
We are going to change now, subject matter a little bit. Which property management company should I use? So first of all, what type of client, what's the client looking for really when they think about property management companies?
Well, it depends. I think clients have different needs depending on why they've purchased a property. They could be buying just for investment, in which case they may need an agency that specialises in short-term rentals. They could be buying a holiday home, which will be vacant for many parts of the year, and a property management service is really advisable in that case, I would say, and we can expand upon that a little bit. Or they may be relocating, which is great. In terms of property management, we offer a full service at our agency. So at Mitchell's Prestige Properties, we have tried and tested, providers of different services that we've used over the years, and we have some great connections, whatever that service may be. I think it's really important that our clients understand that they can rely upon us no matter what it is, whether it's a very simple, mundane changing of the locks, whether it's contacts in the world of interior design, in project management. We have a full team of recommended professionals out there that we can put in touch with our clients.
Yeah, I think this is. I would like to add this is something that when I started the company, it's something that I put in place from day one. I always say you've got to put in the other person's shoes to see what they need, what they think, and if I have a property in another country, I don't live there, I'm going to need somebody to help me. So I always had that idea and that service I wanted to provide if the client needed it. So all I can say is not many agencies provide the service. We have provided the service. We have learned a lot over the last 20 years about how best to provide this service. And yes, you can contact us for anything from key holding service, which is free for the first year. And again, a service that's provided to our clients. We are not advertising the service for everyone. I think should be an added benefit for the clients that purchase the property through us, who just want to ensure that everything goes smoothly post completion, whether it's just the first year, what they'll get their, their whereabouts and they get organized with the area. And then after that, if they don't need the service, it's fine. So anything that they need, we have a team in place in both offices, in Fuengirola and here in Marbella, where there is staff responsible to help them in whatever service they need.
Yeah, and I always think of that department as a very busy department.
Extremely.
Yeah, it's quite intensive work, can't it? And you've got the different ways in which property management can be used. Rental coordination. I mean, that's a really intense part of the business, isn't it?
It is, and it is also another part of the service that we provide.
Yep.
The rental department, if the client wishes, as you said, is an investment and they want to rent the property, we provide the service. We have a team that looks after them, and it's like long-term rentals or like winter lets. We do not do holiday rentals for the clients because I actually believe that a specialized company should do that job. It entails a lot of work, and we don't have the structure for it. So it's not that, we wish we could, but really, you've got to manage things well for the client so we can recommend people. But we do the rental departments for our clients, and because some clients want to use it themselves, and the other time they want to, rent it out, and we can do that for them as well.
Well, I'm sure that's been really helpful to everybody. In fact, I'm quite sure after this that our clients will be phoning us up a lot less with such questions. Only joking. But no, always great to hear it. And if they need any assistance with any of these topics, of course, we're here just to get in touch through the usual means. But no, I think that's been great and really useful to everybody, I'm sure.
Yeah. If there's any questions and you want to contact us about any of the topics we've discussed today, by all means. Thank you.
Thank you.